And what I'd like you to do is the do now in the classwork is a responding to peers activity. So if you click on that, the directions are there. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to find last week's tasks underneath session 1. And the discussion question, you're going to be interacting with that discussion question. And then inside this one, you're going to have to click the view assignment, and then there will be a turn in button for you as a student. As a teacher, I get to see everybody's work, okay? So you're doing the do now right now underneath classwork. If you go into people, you should see that you've got 5 students in your class. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Now, the invite guardians is where you would click so that parents can be invited to receive updates. They don't have access to your classroom. They receive updates for if anything is missing, what's been completed. It might have a grade, but it might not. I think that depends on how you set it, okay? So you have to manually put the guardians in and invite them. Now, if we go to classwork, no, sorry, let's go to the stream first. And if you don't have if you're not in one of the blue classrooms that say student sample, open up your delete me class, because what we're doing right now has to do with settings, and all of this will apply to the one that you created, okay? So you're going to open up delete me, you're gonna right click on your present classwork classroom tab. You're gonna choose duplicate so that you get a second copy, and then you're going to use the hamburger on the left to locate your delete me, which is the fake classroom that we created together last week, okay? So inside the stream, you can see that at the top, it says you are the teacher for this class. You'll be grading and accessing the teacher side. Then underneath that, notice it says, Eileen posted a new assignment. Eileen posted a new assignment. Eileen posted a new assignment. We do not want that in the stream. That just clutters everything up. So what we're going to have to do is we are going to go into the settings, which is the gear at the top right. And right now you're either in the student sample classroom or your delete me, okay? So we're going to go to the settings, and we are going to scroll down, and underneath invite codes, while we're in here, if you're using Google Meet, you can just use the link that is here to share with kids, and you can turn it on so that the kids can see it at the top of their classroom all the time. If you don't want them to have that link, because there were some issues in the spring and the fall with students getting into that Google Meet without the teacher, and then people were afraid there would be bullying or some kind of nonsense going on. So you do have the ability to turn that off just by clicking and hitting turn off, okay? Then you've got, well, let me show you something else for the invite codes. I'm going to turn that back on for a second. The class code is here as well. And then you can hit the display code and makes it big. All of this information is also at the top of your classroom in the stream. So I just wanted to let you know where it is. So I'm going to hit turn off for now. Inside the stream, you can decide whether or not students can post and comment. So in the beginning, we recommend don't let them post or comment. Do some digital citizenship, do some modeling, and then let them comment on your posts, but you'll be able to choose how the students can comment or whether they can. Now, right below stream, it says classwork on the stream. That is what you want to click on. It says show condensed notifications. You want to choose hide notifications. And then everything you do in classwork will not be posted in the stream also. So that is very, very important. I wish that the default were hidden and you could turn it on if you wanted to. But for right now, you want to choose hide notifications. Okay. So go ahead and select that. And then you can decide whether or not you can see deleted items or you don't want to. It doesn't affect students at all. And then the Guardian summaries, you can click on see example so that you can see exactly what teachers will see. I mean, guardians will see, and you can see that it's a due date, what's due, and the parent has the option to choose a daily post or a weekly. So as a parent, I always chose Friday. There was no way I wanted to know every second of every day what was going on. And my kids hated that too. So I always chose Friday, but it's off of you. The guardians get to choose what they want. Okay. And there is a Google Meet. You can generate a Meet link right there. And this is where this was built in after the teachers freaked out over kids getting into their Meet without them. So the workflow for this is you want to click the generate Meet link. And this is if, you know, we're remote again, or if you've got some kids that are home and some kids are not. You can generate the Meet link immediately before the class, and then you can turn on visible to students so that the students automatically now can see the link and can click on it and be in. So that's a nice smooth workflow right there. And now the grading section. For grading calculation, class.
I'm sorry. When you said that it generates it for the student, you mean you don't have to post it or anything? As soon as you click Meet now, they see the link as well immediately without doing anything?
Yes, ma'am. And you'll see the visible to students automatically turned on. I didn't have to turn it on. Now,
Okay.
if you say, I can't even make it visible to my students, you can turn that off, and then you can share the Meet link out when you want to. Okay. So yeah, it's an automatic at this point. So that's nice. Okay, for grading, Google Classroom is getting to the point where it will sync. And so if you use PowerSchool, that might be a possibility. It has to be done at the district level though. So, but in the meantime, if you want to make sure that your grades in PowerSchool, and I'm just assuming that's what you use, your grades in PowerSchool and your grades in Google Classroom are going to mesh, we've got this add grade category. And so for here, if you do like homework is worth 10%, then you can make homework worth 10 points, and they'll always be worth 10 points. This is a default points, okay? And it gets a little dicey because some people do total points and some people do weighted by category. So the first drop-down menu on the right says no overall grade. You have to choose whether you do points or whether you do weighted. So if I choose weighted, then I'll be able to say homework is worth 10%.
Well, wouldn't we do weighted if we use that for PowerSchool with the
Yeah.
percentages for
I want them to match. Yeah.
And I'm going to intervene a little bit here. PowerSchool, we have talked about that. And from our PowerSchool admin, Google at this point is not on the approved vendor list for PowerSchool. So this is not functionable right now.
Okay. So it won't automatically put the grades in, but setting your weight by category is going to be important so that the grade that you have in your Google gradebook will match the grade that shows up in PowerSchool when you import those grades. Does that make sense? So that like a student would say, why do I have a 90 in Classroom, but I have an 89 in PowerSchool? And then you've got a headache. So that's something that you might want to play around with, but making sure that you've got your weighted categories the same in PowerSchool as in Google Classroom, so that you don't end up with those headaches is important. There is a setting where we can turn the grading off so the kids can't see it. And so that is an option as well, but just so that you know that this is here, okay? All right, so what I'd like you to do is in your, we've hidden the notifications. So we want to make sure that we hit the save button in the top right-hand corner. And then we're going to X out of the classroom settings. So now when I'm in the stream, all of those mini posts are gone now. Not only did it stop it from happening in the future, but it removed them altogether.
Eileen, my save button is not activated on that screen. It's still in gray.
If you didn't make any changes, that's why. But we also have 5 teachers in the same classroom at the same time. So somebody else might have already hit save, and that's why yours is not activated. But if you're in the delete me, your own, then you're the only one making changes. So everything would be kosher. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the universal settings. So these choices that you make will affect all of the classrooms that you are in. So go to the hamburger and we're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. The first set of classrooms are classes that you are the teacher of. The second set is classrooms that you are enrolled in as a student. And then it says archived classes and then settings. Let me just talk about archived classes. It is impossible to delete a Google Classroom. Thank goodness. Can you imagine if you had Google Classroom open and something happened in the hall and you ran out and a student came up to your desk and tried to delete your Google Classroom? So it's impossible. So you can only archive classes. So if you say, okay, I'm not teaching biology this year, I want to archive it because my desktop is too cluttered. You can archive it. And then if the following year you do teach it, you can bring it back up. All right. So for right now, we're going to go to settings. So click on settings. So notifications are super important. You will receive notifications for everything that every student does if you don't pay attention here. So receiving email notifications is turned on, and then you want to go down to the granular level to figure out what you want comments for, emails for. Do you want an email every time a student comments on your posts? Maybe not. That might be better off going in and reading them instead of filling up your inbox. Comments that mention you means the student would have to type in at Mr. Ward or whatever your link is. And that's probably okay because it's probably not going to happen that much. Private comments on work, I would recommend that you leave on because students who are telling you they have a problem are usually going to use the private comments. So I would definitely turn off the first. The second one is optional, and I recommend you leave the third one on. For classes you're enrolled in, this is work and other posts from teachers. So the class that you're in with me, that's this one. So do you want to know every time someone posts, or do you not want to? And that's a personal preference. Turn it on or off. When you get returned work and when I grade stuff, do you want a triggered email? Decide on or off. Invitations to join classes as a student, I would leave that on because they're probably not going to be very often. Due dates and reminders for work, you can decide on or off. And then the last section is where I think the power is, and this should have been at the top. Late submissions of student work. I like to turn that on because if a student turns something in late, I want to know and I want to grade it. Resubmissions has to do with when a student turns it in, the turn in button switches to unsubmit. So if a student hits unsubmit, you will know that they unsubmitted and then they changed something and they resubmitted. Okay. So you can decide if you want that. Invitations to co-teach classes. I wonder if the teachers who didn't get the invitation had that turned off. So if so, go ahead and turn it on. And then scheduled posts published or failed. So this morning, I scheduled everything to post at 8 o'clock this morning. And when I came in at 8:01, it hadn't posted, right? So having this turned on is helpful, because if you assume, like, if you set something to post at 5 p.m. for kids when they get home and it never posted, then you're just out of luck, all right? For class notifications, you've got all of these. So you can decide, I do not want any notifications. And I have this many because I have this many classrooms, but you can choose, you can say, well, that class is over. I don't want anything from that. You can turn these off individually for your individual classes. Okay. So those are your universal settings. What I'd like you to do is spend a minute and choose it the way you want it. And you can always come back if things, if you change your mind, you can always come back. And there is not a save button for that. So we're just going to go back to the hamburger. And then we're going to go back to the Welcome to Google Classroom, the green tab. All right, so I'm going to look at the do now to see how we did. So if you're looking at the Zoom screen, you should see what I see. 5 people completed this and turned it in. So that means they posted and then they came back here and they hit the turn in button. Okay. So let me go down here to the task discussion question. All right. So for your asynchronous work, which is a nice word for homework, right? You were asked to post items in the stream, and then you were asked to answer using the protocol square, triangle, circle, and talk about one thing that squared with or affirmed your thoughts, 1 point to remember, and one thing that is still circling in your head. So on mine right now, you can see that I've got a lot of people did this in advance, and I already graded them and I turned them in. I mean, I returned their grade to them, okay? And so what I'd be looking for is the replies. So if you did not have an opportunity to do this right now, let's take a minute so that you can read what your classmates said, your peers said, and go ahead and reply. Just reply to one of them because we're running out of time.
Eileen, where do we go to find that?
So you are inside the Welcome, the green tab for Google Classroom, the Classwork tab, and then down at the bottom of session 1, it says session 1 task discussion question. And when you click on that, if you answered this, you'll see a See Classmates Answers link. And if you did not do this, you have to do it first to be able to respond. So just take the time to do it if you haven't done it already. And if you have, click on See Classmate Answers and then read and respond. Okay, now using those discussion questions are super powerful, is super powerful in the classroom, because the more the kids discuss, the better the learning is cemented. So taking the time to go through those answers and check, what people have said that is a worthwhile use of your time, because it gives you the opportunity to find mistakes that people are have kind of learned wrong, and you want to catch them quickly. You also want to make sure that you know, as kids are reading other people's answers, if they read the same thing 3 times, chances are it's going to stick in their head. Okay. And then you could also have them find one they like and rewrite it in their own words so that they're practicing paraphrasing. But also the act of typing it out is no different than taking notes, right? So you're not assessing their knowledge, you're giving them a chance to cement their knowledge. So those classroom discussion questions are super powerful. Now, remember, in the beginning, it's important for you to model an appropriate answer. And remember to use sentence stems. And if you just Google sentence stems, and I think I already linked them under resources, and I will, if I haven't already, I will. But it gives students the beginning sentence so that they kind of, they go, oh, that's all I have to do? Okay, I can do that, you know? So it's they show you polite ways to agree and polite ways to disagree. And that's important for them to practice, okay? So what we want to do now is we need to talk about student copies of make a copy for each student activities, assignments. So inside classwork, when you want to create an assignment, the create button is at the top, and you'll be able to do this with me. You can do it with me as I narrate, or you can watch me do it and then do it yourself. So the create button is at the top. Assignments, remember, are things that you want to grade, assess in some way. So you might put a grade in, you might not, you don't have to. It can be an ungraded assignment. This is only for when kids are turning something back into you or letting you know they've finished. So I'm going to choose assignment, and the title would go here. And remember, you want the title to be short because this is what is at the top of the grade book. And then you want your instructions can go on for as long as you want. You can also just attach a document that has the instructions so you don't have to type it all out again. So if you want to add a file, you can find it from your Google Drive. And what's important here is when you choose a document, and I'm just going to choose the agenda for right now. If I want the students to each have their own copy, I have to use this drop-down menu and I have to switch it to make a copy for each student. And when I do that, then I can assign it. Now, over here on the right-hand side, this is where differentiation is possible, and you can only do differentiation if you've got students in the class. So when you click on all students, if I say that I'm just going to pretend that my even kids are the ones who need to get this assignment, right? I'm going to put the title that says evens, and only these students will see it. So this is how you can differentiate inside Google Classroom. So if you have an assignment that you need to make it a little bit easier, or you have to modify it for kids who have IEPs, you can do that and shoot that out to just the kids who have IEPs and nobody else knows. Then you can give your kids who are in the middle the regular assignment, and then you might have an assignment that extends for if you've got gifted and talented kids. So using this is super powerful, and you can only see it in this practice classroom. So go ahead and check off students that you want to have. You cannot do multiple classrooms at the same time unless you choose all students. So if I want it to go out to my 00 and my 02 class, then the all students is grayed out. So we're just going to use it as one class. We're differentiating for specific students. It's going to be just my evens. I can set my points. I can set a due date, but you don't have to. And topic, we're going to talk about in a minute. So for right now, we can leave that alone. So the rubric here, it exists. We're not going to use it for this assignment, but if you want to use a rubric, and we're going to go over this, we can do it right inside Google Classroom. This last thing, this originality test, each classroom that you create gets 5 free plagiarism checks. What that means is if you check that off for this assignment, you've used up one of your 5. The student can run their document 3 times through Google, and it will flag anything that looks like it's plagiarized. Like if it's too close to somebody else's words, it'll flag it so the kids know I either need to fix that and paraphrase it, or I need to cite it. So remember, you get 5 free. And then after that, you have to have a higher level.
So it checks it against other students and against copying and pasting basically from the internet.
It only checks it against the internet. It can't check work
Okay.
students. It's not going to check private stuff, right? But anything on the internet that, just, how kids just copy and paste. So that's what that is set to check for you. All right.
And we do have enterprise, so that
Oh,
should be
wonderful.
limited for them.
Oh, fantastic. All right. So you've got unlimited then.
We have what?
You have enterprise, which is the highest version your district paid for. So you get unlimited plagiarism checks.
So they will hopefully check that Power School box too to make it like a lot easier.
Yeah.
Is the title of the assignment the title that would go into our Power School?
Yeah. Well,
To mimic it if they check that box?
so they don't talk to Power School just yet, but if you think
Right.
about what's at the top of your Power School, that's what your grade book looks like also.
Okay.
So you don't want it to be really long, just a couple of words. Okay. All right. So now at the top right, you can schedule something to come out at a certain time, because how there's that one kid who gets the email and then does the assignment and you haven't even taught the content yet. So sometimes you have to schedule it to come out right before class, right? You can save it as a draft if you're not finished, or you can assign it right there. Now, here's the caveat. Make a copy for each student. You can only do the first time you set this. So once you publish it, if you have forgotten and you made it students can view file, you can't just come back and edit this. And I'm going to show you how to fix that. Okay. So for right now, let's all use the make a copy for each student. Your task is to make sure you don't choose all the students, just choose a couple. You can do whatever you want with the rest of the boxes and then hit assign. Right. So what we should start to see in the classrooms is multiple assignments being posted by you. And they come in at the top of your classwork, unless you attach them to a topic. And I'll be talking about topics in a minute. And if you set it as a draft, it's grayed out, but we can still see it. The teachers can see it. The kids cannot see drafts. I want to show you what it looks like from the student point of view. So this is the student view. So what I want to show you that you have to share with your students, I'm going to go to classwork and I'm going to go to the make a copy for each. Now, the students have to click on it to open it, to expand it. You have to tell them to click the link. The clicking of the link is what makes the copy. So when I click that link, now from the teacher side, the teacher will be able to see that student's copy. So let's look in the, you need to be inside your blue classroom. You're going under assignments major, and you're going to click on make a copy for each. And over here on the right, you should see 5 assigned, 0 turned in. When you click on view assignment, you can see that the students, you have access to the student's work without the student turning it in. So once the student has clicked on it, it will show up here. and then you can click on it and see how they're doing. So you know, you always have that one student who does everything last minute. And those are the kids that we lie awake at night worrying about, right? So you can go in, and this is just a template, there's nothing here, but you can go in and you can check to see how they're doing. Now over here on the right, you can send them a private comment, and this is how you can have an asynchronous discussion with your student. So if this is going to go automatically to learner 01, and if they're doing a great job, I can say, doing a great job. And so your comments will list right here on the right-hand side. Now, for my English teachers, I was an English teacher, and we know that we use the same comments over and over again, right? Could be fragment, could be run on, could be check spelling. Right here, there's a column in between where it says files and the actual file. If you click on the second one, it's a comment bank. So you can reuse your comments. You hit add to bank, and then that comment will stay in this bank. And then you can copy to clipboard and paste. And then you can paste it right here. So it's a little bit of time that it'll save you instead of having to type the whole thing out. Now, some of you might say, I typed faster than I could do that. Then by all means, just go right ahead and type it. Okay, but they do have a comment bank for you there. So what I'd like you to do now is choose one of those, choose 1 through 5 to be the person that you're going to work on, and go ahead and post a comment next to their copy of the assignment. Now remember, you have access to it before they turn it in. So this would be formative comments. And right now it doesn't matter what you type, but before they turn it in, it would just be formative comments. At the top, it says see history. So you can see, you know, what went on prior to whatever you're doing right now. Now, while you are inside that screen, in the top right-hand corner, there's a return button that is grayed out. It's grayed out because the student didn't officially turn it in. So you can't return it until they turn it in, okay? Now, some students will forget to turn it in. So you can decide, but it was finished, but they forgot to hit the button. You can decide whether you want to give them full credit or not for forgetting to turn that button in, but you've got the information there to grade it. So let's just say that they forgot to turn it in, but they did really well. You don't have to send them an email and say you need to turn it in. You can give them, if it was a 100, you can give them a 95 and say, you would have had 100, but you forgot to turn it in. Notice the return button is now blue. So you can just override they forgot to hand it in, and you can return it to them graded with a note in the comments, right, that says, sorry, I had to take 5 points off because you didn't hit the button. Next time, I bet they'll hit the button, right? Now, underneath this drop-down menu, you get to see all of the submissions that they turn in. So if they turn one in early and then they find a mistake and then they resubmit it after the deadline, you know both of them. You have both copies, so you can see exactly what went on, okay? So that's a nice feature as well. Doing an assignment is super packed with all kinds of stuff. And if you don't want to see this screen, there is a greater than symbol down at the bottom, an arrow pointing to the right. You can click on that and get it out of the way until you need it. And then you can just click it because it's a less than symbol and it'll pop back to the left. Okay, so it does give you this screen real estate that you need when you need it. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to fix when you've accidentally forgotten to hit make a copy for each student. We're going to have to go up to the 3 dots, sorry. And we're going to choose edit. So on mine, when I try to edit it, it only says students can view and students can edit. And I don't know why they don't let you change that, but it's a programming thing, I'm sure. So the only way to fix it is to go to create, reuse post, find the post that you want to do. Down in the bottom left, it says create new copies of all attachments. If you want to have fresh copies, then make sure you check that off and nothing will be attached. You have to reattach them. There might be a time when you need to do that, just so you know it's there. Okay, so you have to make sure you choose make a copy and then you can assign it. And then you have to go back and delete the old one. Okay, just so that the kids don't get confused. And we all do it. We rush, right? We forget. So don't feel bad. You know how to fix it and you'll be able to fix it. We are going to be looking at the attached rubric. And what happens is there is a rubric that is attached. And we have to click on a student's linked work. And this is a paper that I graded back in 2011. So you can see down the bottom that I was using a rubric and the content he or she received a 1 on. So over here on the right, you can see that there's a rubric attached. If you click on the down arrow, it gives you what the different descriptions are. And I just set this up to be beginner, growing, and meets. So for content, the person got a 1, so I can select it right there. If I have it memorized, I can just type the 1 in the box and I don't have to expand it. And you can see at the top, it auto calculates the score. So this student would have a 5 of 9. And at the top above that, it calculated the grade as a 55 out of 100. And then at that point, you can hit return to send it back to the student. You have the option to give them private comments. You might want them to redo it. You might want them to resubmit. So the private comments gives you an opportunity to tell them everything you want to. I'm going to go back to my classwork tab. Now, if we don't have topics, then everything is just listed exactly like the stream. It would look like this, and kids can't find anything among that. So what Google has done is it's allowing us to create topics that then we can filter things under. So there are 3 different ways that I've seen teachers create topics. So if you hit the create button and you go to topic, it's just a word, right? So the way that I've seen teachers do it is by week. So it might be week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And if everything they do is that way, then it makes sense to the kids and they can find what they need. Another way that I've seen teachers do it is by unit and chapter. So if you're algebra 1, right, it might be unit 1, and then you might put chapter 1 and hit add. And then you might do unit 1, chapter 2, unit 1, chapter 3, whatever. So you can do it by what goes along with your textbook, okay? The third way I've seen teachers do it is by activity. So one teacher that I know puts all of her warm-ups under one category, and then she puts all of her classwork under another category. She's got quizzes. So it's basically broken down the way her grade book is broken down, and that works for her. If you could grade level wise come up with a system so that the kids don't have to know 3 different systems, that might be beneficial, but I don't know if you would have to do that because kids they're usually pretty flexible. If you tell them where to find it, they can usually find it, okay? So what I want you to do is just underneath classwork, hit the create button and make 2 topics that work for you and the way you teach and the way you organize your class.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When I added my second topic, it moved it to the top.
Right.
Is there a way that you could put them like at the bottom, like it go unit 1, unit 2, instead of unit 2
Yep.
going before unit 1?
Yes, ma'am. They click and drag. You can put them anywhere you want.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you.
Isn't that great? And within each topic too, you can move assignments up and down as well. And then the only way to get them out from underneath there is when you're inside them, over on the right-hand side, topic is at the bottom. So if you want to change it, if you labeled it, if you need to change it, you can just choose a different topic and hit save, and then it's going to automatically go underneath that topic instead. So it does have some flexibility. What you want to do is let your students know that it's an experiment and you're going to try it out a couple different ways and get their feedback, because really it's about them. It's not about us. So feel free to change it, if you need to. All right, we are at the hour. So what I'm going to ask you to do asynchronously over the next week, because we meet in just 1 week, is I would like you, if you're not working with a class in Classroom, in your Delete Me classroom, I want you to go to the Create button, and I want you to try to create, don't do Kami assignment because you have to have, unless you guys have the pro version, but create an assignment. You won't be able to differentiate in Delete Me, but you can create different assignments. So make one make a copy for each student, make one that is, just turn something in, post a discussion question, and then make your topics and a reuse